200 years of nerfs. Welcome back, gamers. I'm Zyrene, back again with a list of champions that should never be touched if you care about your rank. We've sifted through the data and asked our coaches on who the bottom tier champions in the current meta are to compile our list. These champions have a really low win rate across all levels of play or have seen decent dips in their overall success in solo queue. But before diving right in, make sure to check out our website at ProGuides.com. We have a bunch of resources such as live courses given by pro and top challenger players and a whole bunch of role-specific lectures just for you guys to improve. We also have a bunch of coaches ready to hammer down good habits and point out the problems in your play. You should check out our newly launched VOD review system where coaches give critical feedback on the VODs you send and save a bunch of time improving your play. The season is coming to an end, so you don't want to miss out on your opportunity to reach your solo queue goals. And one last thing, before going down the list, we have the question of the day. What champions would you love to see in Worlds this year? There's a bunch of last-minute patches before all the regions clash it out for the championship title, and we've seen a bunch of crazy picks like Vayne mid and Shen jungle in the past. So what would you want to see this time around? So we're starting off with Jace in the top lane, as he sits in second place in terms of lowest win rate at 47%, right after Yone. It is truly NA Jace up there. We believe that people are still learning how to play Yone properly, so his win rate will be low for a while, so we put Jace on the list because he's once been a dominant top laner, but now has reached rock bottom. He's definitely an extremely difficult champion with a crazy high skill ceiling, but we all agree that it's just not worth the effort to pick up Jace, as even if you are mechanically skilled with the champion, you are averagely strong at most. What we mean by this is that there are a bunch of other champions that you can master with way less games and be able to impact your games a lot harder compared to the amount of time you might have to put into Jace. Unless you really enjoy playing this champion or you have a bunch of games in the bank already, we highly suggest not picking him up. Mordekaiser has seen a lot of success, but you should never consider picking him in the current meta. Right now, he sits at around a 48% win rate, and a big reason for this is that all the current meta top laners completely demolish him throughout the whole game. Champions such as Fiora, Jax, Darius are all extremely good right now and are picked or banned in every game, so blind picking Mordekaiser is pretty much suicide. Fiora can parry Mordekaiser's E and outdamages him throughout the whole game. Jax can counterstrike Mordekaiser's auto attacks so he can never get his passive off. And Darius will auto attack you and win the 1v1s straight up just with his raw damage. Unfortunately, there aren't many other AP champions that can fill the role of an AP bruiser top other than Singed and Cho'Gath and a few others, but you're definitely better off picking something stronger like the three champions I've mentioned before. Set's win rate recently dropped and is now one of the lowest win rate junglers in the current meta. We believe that this particularly has to do with people finally understanding how his kit works and how to play around it. But we think that the biggest reason why he has been struggling in solo queue is because of how you have to play Set in order for the pick to work. Basically, you need to spam gank a lane to get you and your laner a lead and try to win the game off of that. However, that means that failing a gank will set you behind, and that means that you will have to rely on your teammates to carry some weight. In solo queue, you are the only one you can trust to carry the game, so you might often find yourself disappointed if you give your laners a lead and they don't carry the game. He has also received a couple of nerfs in patch 10.16 as well as patch 10.18, so that has hindered his performance in the jungle as well. Pretty much, you should probably avoid picking Set in the jungle because we don't know how hard the nerfs hit Set for patch 10.18 yet. However, we do know that he has been seeing a downward trend in terms of his win rate since patch 10.13, and it does not seem like it's stopping anytime soon with these recent nerfs. A decent amount of players are picking up SYLAS in the jungle, and we have no idea why you guys are inting your LP. In all of the champions that are being played in the jungle, he has the lowest win rate at around 46%, and he should be completely ignored in the jungle. The main problem with this pick in the jungle is that his clear is relatively weak due to his clear speed and how low he gets from finishing camps. In addition, he loses to a bunch of the current meta junglers such as Graves and Kindred as he gets kited non-stop. In order for SYLAS to win fights, he needs to land his E, and the second he misses those chains, he pretty much has nothing left and will straight up lose any skirmish. If you don't get some kind of lead in the early game, you are extremely useless, and it will be quite hard to impact the game in your favor. To add the cherry on top, getting that lead is even harder in higher elo, as a smart jungler will look to invade your jungle just to mess with you, and you won't be able to do much because of your weak early game. Do us a favor and don't even bother trying to make this champion work. Alright, so Azir is another pick that can be relatively decent, but he can only be a decent pick if you are really comfortable with him and when you pick him in a good matchup. Currently, he is sitting at a 46.6% win rate and is struggling to keep up with the current meta. We aren't going to lie to you though, we believe that a big part of why his win rate is this low is because of how NA solo queue is played. What we mean by that is that there are a lot more fiestas in NA solo queue in comparison to other regions that play more disciplined and understand power spikes. That's why almost all of the S tier picks right now are self-sufficient in terms of laning and can get mid control depending on how well you play the lane. An exception to this, of course, is Kassadin. But with how strong his level 16 power spike is, it can't really be compared to Azir's late game strength. Ziggs' win rate has recently dropped, and we think that players should just completely ignore this champion for the mid lane. Ziggs was definitely a good pick before the wave clear and poke, but there are just so many other new champions that can do it better, such as Zoe and Echo. He does have a modest 50% win rate for ranks under Platinum, but anything above that, he falls off, and at around a 45% win rate in Masters. The reason behind this is that Ziggs' playstyle is extremely linear and can be easily countered if the opponent knows how to. His wave clear is subpar, and his long range poke can be sidestepped fairly easily. Also, because his main source of harassment is easily dodgeable, his laning phase is extremely weak because you don't really have a reliable way of harassing your opponent when you need to. Not being able to pressure your opponent properly means that you will have to give up lane control and a bunch of CS if your opponent is able to capitalize on that. Essentially, there are just a lot of better champions that have stronger laning phases and can do what Ziggs does, but better. Better nerf Aphelios. If you got that Aurelia reference, then extra points to you. Aphelios has gotten nerf after nerf and is now finally being ignored in an extremely weak state. Of course, a few patches ago, we were making all the jokes about 200 years and how he was completely imbalanced. But with all the nerfs that he took, and with the rise of other stronger ADCs becoming meta, makes Aphelios irrelevant in the current meta. His current numbers just can't compete against the super strong ADs such as Caitlyn and Ashe in terms of damage, as well as how he does not offer much in terms of utility to the team compared to someone like Ashe. He does, however, have a decently strong late game, but pretty much all the other AD carries are just as strong, if not stronger in the late game. Another problem for Aphelios is that he struggles to even get past the laning phase to be relevant in the mid game and be able to make it to that late game. Do us a favor and pick up a different champion because almost all the other champions are better right now. Speaking of which, Twitch is another champion that you should completely ignore in the current meta, as he has an extremely awful laning phase due to his short attack range and having no utility to make up for it. Sure, he can 1v9 when he is full items, but similar to Aphelios, it is pretty much impossible to scale properly and even get past the early game without feeding out of control. You will be under your turret the whole time if your goal is to not die, delaying your item power spikes even further. He does have a decent win rate in certain rank brackets, but looking at statistics on common matchups, he has around a 40% win rate on most of the meta AD carries right now. He's also one of the champions that if you get hard camped by the enemy jungler, you will just not be able to play the game at all. If you are playing someone like Ashe, Caitlyn, or Senna, you have a much better chance of surviving because of their strong laning phase, sustain, and utilities such as Hawkshot to help pin down where the enemy jungler is. BRAUM has been a really bad pick for a while now, but he has seen another dip in his win rate as of recent. Currently at around a 47% win rate, he is a support that suffers from not being able to offer much to the ADC during the laning phase. All of the meta picks for ADs have decent attack ranges or have ways to harass long range, so that doesn't help him in any of the current meta situations. In addition, all the good supports have extremely effective ways to hard engage or have many ways to offer help with shields and healing. With all that being said, BRAUM is really weak because he is a melee champion that is easily abused in lane from the long-range ADs and does not offer the utility that all the other meta supports have in their kits. We believe that the only time BRAUM should be picked is when the enemy team has a bunch of melee champions so that you can get maximum value from your passive. Other than that, he's probably been losing all his muscle from the gyms closing from COVID, so we suggest not picking him in your solo queue games. There's a couple of you guys out there still who play TAHM KENCH, and you need to stop now. He's gotten nerf after nerf and is now a champion with extremely poor numbers and does not offer much. TAHM KENCH was used mainly as a way to save your AD if they ever got CC'd, but after his W nerfs, his Devour is not as strong anymore, so he is a much weaker champion overall. There are a bunch of other champions that can save teammates, but also offer a ton of utility along with that, such as Morgana with her Black Shield and Snare, or Thresh with Lantern and his hooks. In the current meta, TAHM KENCH suffers from the same problems as BRAUM, as they are both walking punching bags. But for TAHM KENCH, he is only useful for his Devour, as his source of harassment is extremely weak and has no other utility to offer. Well, that's all for now, folks. Remember, you will for sure see some of these picks in pro play, but that's pro play and the players have hours upon hours of practice with coaches right behind them. You can also never predict what your teammates will do in solo queue, while in pro play, teams will play around power spikes properly by not taking unfavorable skirmishes. Anyway, make sure to check out our other videos on this channel if you want more content like this. And pay us a visit at ProGuides.com if you want to see rapid improvement in your rank. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you soon in the next video.